Thank you very much, Mr. Lord Clement. Thank you very much to Bayan Khan and her brilliant team for organizing this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to go briefly go through the international definition of genocide. I'm having a purpose for that. I'm not going into detail of that. The international legal definition, I'm going to read that because that's a legal article. The international legal definition of the crime of genocide is found in the Articles 2 and 3 in the 1948 Geneva Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of Genocide. I'm sorry, I was very emotional with that film. I'm sure everyone was. Article 2 describes two elements of the crime of genocide. One, the mental element, meaning the intent to destroy in whole or in part the national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. And secondly, the physical element, which includes 5 acts, including killing members of the group, causing serious bodily harm or mental harm to members of the group, etc. A crime must include both elements to be called genocide. Having gone through that definition, I find it difficult to fit what happened to Kurdish people as a war genocide. Perhaps the legal people will research this further. I would rather call it as ecocide, because what happened to us was not to kill every living soul, like human beings, animals, and plants, but it was also to poison air and waters and to make the land inhabitable to living. I'm not sure whether you call that as a genocide as such. No wonder that in Kurdistan now we take the day of the first chemical gas attack of the 16th of April of every year as the day for environment. The Kurdish genocide has been a continuing complex process, as my colleague Kak Aram went through some of it, and started in the 1960s. It was concentrated in the 1970s, where the Faili Kurds suffered the most. They suffered systematic persecution and oppression just for being Kurds. Thousands of them were killed, deported, extradited to the neighboring countries for just under the excuse that they've been of Iranian descent. Afterwards, the Barzanis suffered, and some 8,000 Barzanis were killed, as we all know. I'm here to concentrate on the Anfal process because I'm a live witness of the Anfal and a witness of several gas attacks happened to the Kurdistan area in the 1980s. I'm witness of the first ever gas attack on Kurdistan area on the 16th of April, 1987, on the villages of Sheikh Wassan and Balisan in the Balisan Valley. I'm going to concentrate on those. But before I do that, I would like to define trying to define the Anfal. For me, the definition of Anfal, which is a verses from Quran, is an army which was considered to be the 4th strongest army in the world at the time, to attack some people who said that they had no friends but the mountains. That army was supported by many countries, and the plan to exterminate the Kurds, to destroy the whole countryside, that included looting all their livestock, destroying the forests, poisoning their water, cementing their water springs, and also to create an area of nearly the size of Scotland completely inhabitable under the excuse of creating the so-called the safety zone with the Iran-Iraq border. I'm going to concentrate on the first chemical attack today, only one single incident, because I cannot go through many incidents at the same time on that short time. But as you all know, more than 3,500 villages were destroyed. So there must be more than 3,500 similar stories to the one I'm mentioning today. There must be thousands of stories never being told, never be heard, because of the 180,000 still missing people and yet to be found in the mass graves. The first chemical attack, like I said, was on the 16th of April 1987 on the village of Balisan. Balisan Valley, for the ones who have not seen, is located somewhere about 50 miles north of Erbil, and it's far away from the Iran-Iraq border. It's more than 100 miles from the Iraq-Iran border. I'm saying that because sometimes in the court, Saddam's lawyers argued that it's an Iranian border. It's actually much nearer to Erbil than the border. I was located in a small village called Khate. We had a little health center, consists of 2 little rooms. 6 of my assistants and myself treated injured Peshmerga and the local farmers alike, with any little facilities we had at the time. If you notice, the first ever attack on Kurdistan happened on the 16th of April. Again, the attack on Halabja happened on the 16th of March. So, Saddam's advisors, the biological and chemicals advisors, chose the springtime because it's the optimum time to use the chemical gas. We know now that the chemical gas is heavier than air. It settles deep in the valleys. It will be destroyed by heat, so you cannot use it on a hot day. It will be dispersed by wind, so you cannot use it in a very windy day. It will be dispersed by rain, so that's why he used it mainly in spring. Like you saw in the film also, just to confuse us with the little facilities we had, he used to mix bombs. He used a bomb of chemical mustard and a bomb of nerve agent and a bomb of phosgene. So as a clinician, you're confused, you don't know what to treat. What sort of treatment do you give this patient? Again, I'm going to mention this day. It was a beautiful day in the spring, just before dusk, when the farmers and the animals were heading home after a long, tiring day. You can imagine those beautiful weather days in a countryside in Kurdistan. Like I said, the condition was optimum for using chemical gas. The temperature was around 20 degrees centigrade. The skies were clear. The wind was very light easterly. Initially, I heard the sound of several helicopters. They were not just one. There was a roaring noise coming from south, from the direction of Baghdad. After a little while, I saw the helicopters, no, not just 1 or 2. I've never seen so many helicopters together in my whole life, maybe in fairs. There were more, I counted more than 10 or 12 helicopters. They were flying very low in the valley, and they were followed instantly by 6 to 8 fighter jets. They were Russian fighter jets. They were also flying very low. They started to drop bombs. But the bombs were not the usual we are used to. We are used to bombardments, but these bombs were different. They did not make a loud noise. but they made a dense gray-white smoke. The smoke was heavy and was heading down to the valley. After a couple of minutes, you could smell a strange smell. Some people described it as it's a smell of a garlic. Others said, no, it's a rotting apple or a green grass. Whatever it was a deadly smell. It took about 10, 15 minutes. The aeroplanes headed back, flew back to south to Baghdad, and everything went quiet again. I was expecting injured people, many injuries. Nothing has happened. I went to a little snooze, and about 2 o'clock in the night, I was awakened by a cry and a noise of a crowd of farmers, local farmers. There were not tens, they were in hundreds. They were coming in tractors, on donkeys, some of them carried by their friends or neighbors. It was a day from hell. I can never describe that day. I can never tell what the people felt that day. I saw pregnant women, they were bleeding, losing their babies at the time. I saw people who were lying and having a fitting convulsions, and they were dying instantly after that. I saw people who were covered with blisters from top to toe. Never seen anything or heard anything in my medical experience, anything like that. We didn't even have any medical experience how to treat injuries like that. Like I said in the film, we had a little drop. We used to put it in people's eyes, at least to help them to open their eyes temporarily. I asked my assistants to get some fresh clothes from the nearby village. At least we asked them to change their clothes and to wash up in the nearby spring, despite the cold weather, the cold night, because the night was really cold. At sunrise, to make matters worse, we heard the noise of army tanks advancing on the village. There were not just one, there were many of them. And the bombing became very intense. The people were blind, injured, but still very panicky. And in their fright, they dispersed in all directions. In desperation and confusion, some even headed down toward the advancing troops. Others just climbed the mountains aimlessly. My assistants and I took a few of the injured with us and climbed the mountain behind our clinic. We had to pull them, to carry them, because they were blind, they couldn't see. We finally settled in a small cave, but we were watching closely the situation. We sought shelter in that cave for the rest of the day. From our point, we were watching the army advancing on the villages and burning every standing wall in that village, one after another. They was also taking any person who's failed to escape in hostages. These are the people who were never seen again. During our retreat, my team, myself, and some injured people who went through the village of Sheikh Wasan, which suffered most of the chemical gas attack. It was a village of ghosts. It was full of dead bodies and carcasses. Everything was dead in that village. Even the plants were dead. The trees were dead. The leaves of the trees were covered with some white stuff, white substance. There was big holes on the floor where the bombs hit. It was filled with white substance, white chalky substance, very sticky. So that was the day from hell. From that day onwards, we rarely saw Saddam's army using conventional weapons. And the valley suffered several other attacks on the dates of 17th of May 1988, 17th of June 88, 31st of July 1988. I have to say this sentence, despite it's so difficult on me, despite the complete indifference of the international community. I'm sorry, I'm going to repeat this. Under the complete indifference of the international community, Saddam took the courage to commit his biggest crime of all when he massacred Halabja on the 16th of March, 1988. My records about the casualties from the Balisan Valley with the names include some 273 people killed in the first day of the attack. 317 are dead by now from the aftermath effect of the chemical gas. Some 558 people were injured with the gas, but they disappeared. They never seen again. They are in the Anfal people. So that was just one story about one village, and you can multiply that by 5,000 if you like. There is an old Kurdish saying, I have to say this, every time we repeat this, that Kurds say they have no friends but mountains. I hope things are different now. And seeing all these people and hearing all these people, all these friends and supporters this morning, one will be encouraged to say that we can work together. We can work together to contribute in the international recognition of Kurdish genocide. We can help to bring perpetrators of such crimes to justice, whether they are inside or outside. We have to seek some sort of compensation for the victims of such crimes and their families, and also their environment, which suffered the most. The most important, and lastly, is to stop further genocide of Kurds. As I'm afraid to say, we are as vulnerable as ever. It's no secret that at this moment in time, there is some 60,000 Iraqi troops under the name of Tigris Force aiming to attack the Kurdistan region. Thank you very much for listening.